Hi guys, this is Umair back with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Mongoose. Mongoose is actually a package provided by Node. It is used to model objects for MongoDB. If I go to the docs of Mongoose, you can see there are a lot of things that we can do with Mongoose. We can create schemas, we can create connections, we can build the models, and there are a lot of plugins that we can use to benefit our code. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be creating a simple CRUD app in which I'll be creating two models, user and docs. User will be associated to docs, and I'll show you how you can query and get the data from the relational models. So let's get started. I'm using VS Code, and here I'm going to be creating a simple node project, and for that I'm going to write npm init, and it's going to let me name the project. So I'm going to name it docs mongoose version 1.0, no description, entry point, let's say app.js, no test command, no git repository. So I'll just hit enter and I'm gonna press yes. So this is the package that has been created. Now, before proceeding further, let me show you how you can install Node and also install MongoDB in your system. I'm using Mac, and it's pretty easy. If you're using Windows or Mac, what you need to do is go to the Node website and download Node. And once you download Node, what you need to do is you just need to open up the terminal. And what I do is, in order to run MongoDB, I just write MongoDB in my terminal. I don't need to navigate to any specific directory, and I hit enter. Now it is saying me that it is waiting for connections on port 27017. This is the default port that is provided by MongoDB. So now I'm using Robo 3T. What you need to do, just Google it, Robo 3T, and you will be able to download it. Once you download it, it is a graphical way of looking at how our documents and all the data of MongoDB looks like. And these are all the databases are created. So I'm just gonna go and refresh it. And in order to open up it, you can see that I can just disconnect, and I can just click on it, and it is saying me by default you are going to add a local host colon 27017. So if I hit connect, you can see in my terminal it has been connected, connection accepted from this particular IP. So now our MongoDB is running in our system. Now let's get started, and I need to install few packages in this project. First of all, I'm going to write a command in my terminal, and I'm going to write npm install -- save, and I need to install Mongoose, Express, and body parser. I'll hit enter, and it's going to create a folder node_modules, and it's going to download and install these three packages. So you can see it has added, these are the dependencies for this project, and it has downloaded it from the internet. We're going to be using all these three packages. So this is the folder. These are all the packages required for running our project. So first of all, what I'm going to do is, before actually writing a code, making connection with our MongoDB server, I need to create models. I'll let you know how you can create models and create relationships and build a schema for that. So I'll be creating a file over here, new file, and I'm going to name it user.model.js. So inside it, I'm going to be creating a schema for user. For that, I can import Mongoose, require Mongoose, and I'm using the Mongoose variable to create the schema for that. So schema, I'm going to be using mongoose.schema. All right, now I'm going to be using this schema variables to create the model for the user. So first of all, I need to export this model. So I'm going to be writing the same line of code where I'm creating the schema. Also, I'm exporting this particular model. So I'm going to be writing module.exports equals to mongoose dot model, and I'm going to name this model user. Schema, this variable is what I'm using over here, and this is what I'm using from here. So schema, it takes an object, and this object will be taking a lot of properties for which we need to implement our schema. So first property is by default needs to be ID. If we don't write it, it will still work. It will be created in the database, but it's a good practice to add a underscore ID property in our schema. So schema dot types dot object ID, because it needs to be created by default. It is a proper way to define its value. And next value I'm gonna name for user is the name. I'm not gonna create a lot of properties for this user. It is just to let you guys know how you can create schemas and how you can build the relationships and perform queries on different models. So name, and what I can do is for the name property, I can simply define its data type, that what kind of value it's going to take. It is a string, but if I want to add more than one properties for it, just like if it is required or not, what are the validations for this property, I can define an object. So I'm gonna name its type, which is string, and it is required or not. So true, it is required, and I can simply write the validation message over here. So validator, validate, and it takes a function text, and here I can perform and write a big logic that what are the validations for this text. Whatever is being written for the name property will be coming in this variable, and I can check. So return text should not be empty, so length is greater than 0. It means that this validate function is going to return true if the text length is greater than 0. So what it needs to return if text is 0? So I can simply add a comma, and I can simply write a message. So I can return an empty message, empty name is not allowed. Okay, so that's pretty much it we need to do for this particular model. I hope that you have got the idea. This is the name of this model, and this is how we can define the model and add a schema directly to it. And this particular line, module.exports, will let us use this particular model outside of this file. Okay, and next model I'm going to be creating is docs. So let me just create a new file, and I'm going to write docs.model.js. So let me just copy the whole code from here, and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay, so that I have already imported these required packages, and I'm gonna name it docs. So the first property will be same as it is, and second property, let me write title, which is string, and description, which is string. Let's make it a smaller d, and last property is its relation with the user model. Okay, so I can name it anything, but inside this object, let me just remove this object, and it is required or not. So it is required, and after that I need to define its type. So its type is just like this, schema.types.object_id, because it's going to contain the value of just like of type this object ID, and its value would be like object. Within the brackets there would be a lot of text including integer and characters. So which model it refers to? So it refers ref to user. Okay, so this name is coming from here. Okay, whatever we write over here, we need to write here. Okay, so that's pretty much it for creating the models. Now I need to create a file. Let me just open up it, and this is the main app.js file. This is where our app is going to get started. So I'm going to create app.js file. So app.js. So inside it, I need to write everything to run our code. So first of all, let me just include Express. It will let us create APIs. Require Express. And I'm going to create an app from that Express function. Okay, and after that, var body parser. This actually controls the ins and out of the JSON data from the APIs. So it is coming from the body parser. And lastly, just like I did it another file, I'm going to require Mongoose. Okay, so I'm going to use this body parser first of all. In order to use this body parser, I need to add it in my app. Okay, so I'm going to use this Express app.use and body parser, and it's going to take JSON. So I have told this particular Express app that this app is going to be using body parser for parsing the JSON data. And after that, I'm going to use the body parser again, and I need to define the kind of data will be coming through URL, and it needs to be parsed if it's JSON or it's a query. So URL encoded within the object. I just need to write extended true. All right, so after that, I need to use these two models, user and docs. So I need to import those models as well. So var book doc equals to require dot docs model, and I'm just going to copy this line, paste it right below, and I'm going to change it to user and user. All right, so after that, what I'm gonna do is I need to connect this particular application with my MongoDB. So for that, let me use that Mongoose variable. So mongoose dot connect. So there is a proper syntax how we can connect to MongoDB. So I'm going to write MongoDB :/localhost :27017, and this is a particular host that were added by default when we run over Robo 3T. Okay, and after that, / I need to write down the name of database that needs to be created in my MongoDB. So my docs Mongoose is the name of database that is going to be created. All right, and after that, let me check if it has been connected or not. So if no error, then I'm going to write server has been connected to MongoDB. All right, and before writing APIs, let me just run this Express server, and I'm going to run this project in order to see if our server is running and it has been connected to MongoDB or not. So I'm going to create a port at the top. So const port, so default port, I'm going to set it to 3000. And after it has been connected, I'm going to use app variable app.listen, and I'm going to write the name of port. And here console.log app is running on port. Let me write the port value. All right, so now in my terminal, I'm going to run this file. Okay, I'm going to write the command node and the name of that file app.js. So it has thrown me an error. Let's go up. So it says invalid validator received undefined. So let's go over here. And here there is an error. It's not actually validate, it's actually a validator. Okay, make sure you add a validator and make sure you match the spellings. Okay, so now let me run it again. So now you can see it is running. It has given me a message, app is running on port 3000 and server has been connected to MongoDB. All right, so let's go back to app.js. So our server is running, and let me create a default API and see how we can use that particular API. So for creating a default API, again, I need to use that app variable. So inside it, I can simply write app.get, and we are simply going to hit localhost colon 3000, what needs to be returned. So app.get empty / and it receives at least two variables, which is request and response. And I can send a response to a browser. So response.send homepage. Okay, so let's save it and rerun the server. There is still an error. Sorry guys, this is a comma, should be coming over here. And let's run it, node app.js. Let's save all these files and node app.js, and server is running on 3000. Now I need to go to browser and I'm just going to write localhost 3000, hit enter, and you can see home page. This is the message that was returned from that API. All right, we have checked our server is running and our APIs are working fine. So first of all, I need to create an API for adding a new user in our MongoDB database. So if I go to RoboMongo, if I refresh this connection, you won't see that particular database is created over here as of now. For actually looking at the database, we need to add some kind of data in the any specific model. So I'm going to create an API that will let us use this model, and we are going to add a new user from the postman. Okay, so app.post, and I'm going to name this particular path add user, and it's going to receive two variables, request and response. Okay, so there has to be a bracket over here, and now let me just hit a message that adding new user, and after that let me create an object. So user object equals to object, and I'm going to name the first property underscore ID and new mongoose dot types dot object ID and the brackets, comma, and after that I have a name, and name has to be coming from somewhere else, from the front end of our website. Okay, so we are not going to create the front end using JavaScript, Angular, or any React application. Instead, we are going to be sending this particular data from the postman. Okay, so I'll let you know how we can use the postman. So name request.body.name. This is how we receive the data that come from any particular interface. So after that, I can create a new user object using this data that we have received from whoever hit this URL. So var new user, which is a variable that we are creating, a new user, and this particular variable is what we are using from here, that where we required our user model, and it just works like a classes. We are creating a new object of that user. We need to pass this data from here. It's called dependency injection. We are not building the data inside the user model. We are passing the data that is already built over here, user object. So user object. Okay, so our user object has been created. Now new user dot save error user, and now we are storing this particular user data in our MongoDB. So it has been now saved. Now we need to check if it is successfully saved or not. So if error, then we are just going to return an error message. So response dot status. Earlier there was a different way to actually return the message and also set the status, but it has been changed in newer version of Mongoose. So response dot status, first we need to set the status, which is 400, which is for error, and after that I'm going to send it a message. So there is an error while adding new user. Okay, else response dot status, which is 200 dot JSON, and I'm just going to pass the user. Okay, so this is the user that has been added in our database. Now let's save it, and I'm going to rerun the server. Make sure you save all these files, node app.js. So our server is running and our server is connected to MongoDB as well. Now I'm just going to open up Postman. So this is the Postman in which we can hit the APIs. So this is the API that we created, app.js add user, and which is of method post. So first of all, I need to change it to post, and I can hit the API just by writing localhost 3000/add user. Okay, so before I actually hit this button send, I need to pass the data, because this is where we are receiving this data, request.body.name. I need to send the data from here. First of all, I need to set the headers, that what kind of data that needs to be sent to that API. So it accepts application JSON and the content type. This is what we need to set, which is application/JSON. So these are the two headers that we need to set. Now let's go to body, and I'm just going to click raw, and this is the raw data. I need to send it in the JSON application/JSON. So object, and this is the name. This is the property, only property that we added in user model. So I'm just going to add Umair. So just click on send, and here at the bottom you can see this has been returned. This is where we are returning the user. So this is the ID that has been generated by default, and our user has been created in our database. Okay, this is the data. So let's go to RoboMongo, and I'm just going to refresh this particular connection, and here you can see this is the database that has been created. If I go to collections, users, this is the model that has been created. This is a particular document, and if I just look at this value, it has been added, and if I click over here, it is in the form of objects, and this is the ID for this user, and this is the name for this user. So every time we are going to pass this particular data, it's going to be created in our database. Again, this is just to show you how you can create the models. You have to add a lot of validations over here before you can add a new user. Just like a name, a username, or an email should not be same as the users that are already added in our database. This is what you need to add a logic. Can be a lot of big logics while we add a new user. So if you know JavaScript, you can add the logic for here. Okay, so now I'm going to create the APIs for docs. Okay, so first of all, let me just create an API for that add doc. Okay, so app.post add doc, which is the API, and request response. And now console.log adding new doc. We need to add a comma over here. So var doc object. Okay, so our data will be coming from the API. Okay, so first property that we need to add is ID. Let's copy it from here. Second property, let's go to the doc model, title, description, and user. So, which is the title, and request.body.title, and description. Let's just copy the name of property, request.body.description, and after that I need to add the ID for a particular user. What in real life, in real application, what we do is we pass the user ID whoever is logged in. Okay, and we can get the ID from whether from local storage or some kind of observers that we have added. But here, just to elaborate how we can add a new document by referring to the user, so it will be one to many. It's actually many to many relation. Many documents can belongs to many users. Okay, so what I can do is I can simply go to the database. I can simply copy this particular ID and I'm going to paste it over here. This is the shortcut way, but in real life, you don't do it. You just pass the ID directly in the request from the front end application, whether it's JavaScript or Angular. Okay, so now our object for doc has been created. Now let me just copy this whole syntax from above API and new doc. And I'm just going to pass this particular variable and just copy the new doc and here. So this is the doc. So it has been done now. So every doc that we are going to be created, it's going to be referred by this particular user. Okay, so now let's go to postman, and before that, let me just add a new user. Let me just run the script. So I'm going to write node app.js, and server has been connected to MongoDB. Make sure whenever we make any change, we need to rerun the server. I'll let you know how you can automatically rerun the server at the end of this video. Okay, stay tuned and keep watching the whole video. So let's go to postman, and I need to copy this particular API. Let me just paste it over here and add doc, and there are these properties that I need to send, which is title, description. Okay, these are the two properties. Other properties have already been added like this, object ID and the user. Let me just send out this particular. Again, there will be an error. Let me just change this user doc and this doc. Okay, but we need to rerun the server. So let's go to postman, add doc, and I'm just going to add the title. The title is doc1, and description is this is the description for doc1. Okay, so let's just hit this button, send. So now you can see this has been created. So this is the ID for this particular document, a title and description. Okay, so let me create a doc2 over here. Send. So we have created two documents. Let me just refresh this DB in this particular user interface. This is the docs model that has been created. There are two docs. Let me just see its JSON file. So this is the title, this is the description, and this is the user ID. Okay, so this has been created. So these two docs are being associated with this particular user. Okay, so now I need to create other APIs for actually completing the CRUD app, and I'm gonna do it with the doc. Okay, so let me just get all the documents that are added in our MongoDB. Okay, so over here, let me just add app.get. Get is the method that we use to get all the data that is stored in MongoDB. So slash docs, this is the API that I'm going to create. So request, comma, response, arrow function, and getting all docs. So I'm going to use this doc variable in order to get the data. If I go to it, I can simply click on query, and these are all the methods that we can use to actually get the data, delete the data, edit the data, or update the data. Okay, so I'm going to use this find method to get all the data. So I'm going to use doc.find. Simply send an empty object. It will let it know that we need to get all the data. So I'm just going to write a method populate, because when we get the data, I also want to see the details of the user. If I don't write this populate method, we will simply see the ID of that particular user, but I want to populate the internal data for the user. So I can simply write populate user. If I need to return more than one model data in this populate method, I can simply add it like a comma at the second parameter. Okay, but in this case, sorry, it would be like space and the name of the second model. So yeah, but right now we have only associated this particular document with the user, so that's why we can't write the second particular parameter. So dot and execute this query now. So exec error docs, and here let me just copy this if else, this, and this is the error that would be returned, and this is all the docs that is going to be returned. Okay, so let me just save the files and let me rerun this server, and let me just go to the browser. If there is a get request and there is a kind of text or JSON data that is being returned, we don't need to use any particular postman. We can directly hit this particular API and see the data on browser. It doesn't work in real life, but I'm returning the data like this. So just refresh /docs, hit enter. And yes, you can see these are the two objects that were added in our database, and this is the data for the user. It is showing me the internal details for the user. That is because we added the populate method. So we are showing all the data for that particular user. Okay, so I need to edit this particular document now. Okay, so let me just copy this whole API. And for editing, I can use a put method. Okay, so docs / I need to send a particular ID of a doc, that which document I want to edit. Okay, so colon ID and editing a document. So now what I can do is, while editing, I will also receive the data coming inside this request. Okay, so this would be the kind of data that will be sent. All right, so just copy it, paste it over here. I don't think I need to add this ID over here. Okay, and also I don't need this user. I can simply make any change to the title or description. Okay, so after that I can use, let me go to APIs. I can use find by ID and update this particular. Okay, I'm just going to copy it. It has been clicked actually. So copy, and I'm just going to paste it over here. So find by ID, but inside it I can simply pass request.parents.id, and let me just remove it. And in the second parameter I can simply pass doc object, and in the third parameter I can pass new true. So I have executed it, and it will send me error and a particular doc. And if there is an error, it will throw an error. And if it has been updated, it will return me a document. Okay, so let's just save it, and I'm going to rerun the server. Okay, so let me go to postman and let's say docs and ID. So docs / and I'm going to send the ID for a particular document. So this is the already data that was printed. I'm just going to copy this particular ID and I'm going to paste it over here. I'm going to change the method to put, and I need to send the data over here. So doc to updated, and I can simply update the description. So updated. Okay, and let me just click on this send, and now you can see this has been returned from that API, doc to updated, and this is the description of the doc too. Let me just go to this RoboMongo, refresh, go to docs, go over here, and here you can see this is the title of the same document that was added, and this is the description of the same document that was added, and its title and description have been updated. Cool. So now lastly, what we need to do is we need to delete this particular document. Okay, so let me just copy it. Actually, I don't need to copy. Let me just copy the smaller one, get docs. Okay, so delete, I can use the delete method, and docs /id. For deleting the doc, I can simply send an ID. So I don't need to build this particular object. I can simply find that particular doc and delete it. Okay, so find by ID and update, there is a method find by ID and delete. Okay, so here I can simply pass request.parents.id. You must have noticed that whatever is coming from the request as a value or a data which is received through body object, and whatever is coming through the URL, it is received through params object. So request.params.id. Okay, and after that I don't need to populate it. Execute doc, and the doc Okay, so now it should delete that particular document. So let me just run the app again. And let's go. And this is the same API that we are going to call, but we are going to change the method from put to delete. I don't need to send any data. Okay, so let's hit send. So this is the data that has been returned. It shows that this document has been deleted from database. This is, I could send a particular message over here, but I simply sent return the doc. Okay, so let's go. And I can simply refresh and go to the document. You can see there is only one document. It means that this document has been deleted. So that's pretty much it for this video. There is one thing that is left, and that is to rerun the server whenever we make any change. And for that, I can install a package called nodemon. So npm install --save nodemon. So it's going to be downloaded and it's going to be added in our package.json. And rather than using node space app.js, I can simply use nodemon space app.js, and it's going to rerun the server. So it has been installed. Now, what I can do is I can simply use nodemon app.js. So command not found, what we can do is just open up package.json, and inside the scripts, I can simply write start, and I can write nodemon app.js. Just add the comma over here. So let's save it. Make sure to save all these files. In the terminal, I can use this particular variable and it's going to run this particular command. So I can write npm start and start. The first start is to run any of the commands over here, just like test. And the second start is this particular value, npm start. Okay, so server has been connected to MongoDB. Now let's go and make any change. And I'm just going to add a semicolon over here. Just keep watching the terminal. It's going to be restarted again if I save this file. So you see, I saved this file and the server has been restarted. So I don't need to close the server and rerun the server again and again. So guys, that's pretty much it. I hope that you have learned a lot. I know there were a lot of validations that are required, needs to be added in real applications, but you have got the idea how we can create APIs, how we can create models and create relationships among different models, and how we can query different data from a relational models. So if you have any question or any suggestion, you can write the comment below. Make sure you subscribe my channel and also click the bell icon and like this video if you like this particular tutorial. Keep watching and stay tuned for more good, awesome tutorials.